In 1991, Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, was known for its tranquility and organization. However, that calm disappeared when an unknown sniper began targeting migrants in the city streets. At first, the incidents seemed like isolated events. A green laser light would suddenly streak through the darkness, strike an unsuspecting target, and then the culprit would vanish quickly. People were in shock, unaware of what was happening. After several similar incidents, the picture slowly became clearer. A peculiar individual was lurking, targeting migrants. But who was he, and why them specifically? Anxiety began to spread throughout the city. On one dark evening, the first attack occurred. In a busy neighborhood, an unknown assailant hid in the shadows. Suddenly, a bright green laser light appeared, vanishing with an inaudible sound. It targeted a man of migrant descent walking down the street, injuring him in the back without him knowing what had hit him. No bullet, just light, which left everyone confused. Although the injury wasn't fatal, the incident caused widespread panic. Was this a one-off event, or the beginning of something bigger? What complicated matters further was that the attack was so precise, as if the sniper had been watching the victim for a long time. This attack was not the last. A few days later, the assaults continued at an alarming rate. The sniper targeted victims in various neighborhoods across the city, each victim bearing the same mark: a green laser light, a non-lethal injury, and the sniper's quick disappearance. The attacks weren't limited to nighttime only. The sniper also struck during the day, causing people to live in a constant state of anxiety. Everyone wondered, who was this attacker, and why did he strike from behind the curtain? Was it random, or was there a hidden motive behind these repeated assaults? As the attacks increased, fear began to take hold of Stockholm's residents. People started avoiding going out after dark, with some even placing bets on whether they would survive a sudden attack. Some tried to think logically, assuming the sniper was choosing his victims by mistake. But the reality was different. The attacks were deliberate and organized in a professional manner, which led the police to question the sniper's motives. Was he just a savage targeting the innocent, or did he have a deeper agenda? Everyone feared that there was something more to these assaults than random violence. The Swedish police quickly began their investigations, but they faced a massive challenge. No evidence, no witnesses, and no clear indication of the attacker's identity. Everything was shrouded in mystery. The police examined every corner, but the sniper was always one step ahead. With each new attack, the clues seemed to vanish, almost as if they were part of a mental game. The attacker left no physical trace behind. Even when the police set up stakeouts in the suspected areas, the sniper disappeared without being seen. After a long period of attacks, investigators began to link some of the incidents together. They had noticed something strange: the green laser light that appeared before each assault. These small clues gave them a faint glimmer of hope in cracking the case. But the investigation was taking longer than expected. With each passing day, the suspense grew. Who was this sniper? And what was the reason behind his selection of migrant victims? Some witnesses began to give their accounts, and most described seeing a distinctive green light before the attack. The testimonies were contradictory and, at times, confusing. Some spoke of a man in ordinary clothes, while others claimed the attacker would appear suddenly at a location and then disappear in the blink of an eye. The only description that everyone agreed on was the bright green light preceding the attack. As these testimonies grew, the police tightened surveillance in the targeted areas. The sniper showed no preference among his victims. They were all of migrant origin, though the reason for this remained unclear. The sniper targeted migrants in various parts of Stockholm, from young adults to the elderly. The media began to cover the case, shedding light on this strange pattern of attacks. The Swedish press started linking the sniper to extremist groups, while some suggested a racist motive behind the assaults, giving the case a complicated social dimension. As the attacks escalated, the police began to focus on the possibility that the sniper was motivated by racism. He was repeatedly targeting migrants, which led some social analysts to connect the attacks to extremist ideologies. However, despite these suspicions, there was no solid evidence to incriminate the sniper. What made the investigation more complicated was that the sniper always disappeared, leaving only traces of green light behind. After the escalating attacks, the police decided to take extraordinary measures. More patrols were deployed in the targeted neighborhoods, and the police began using new technologies to try to track the source of the green light. However, all surveillance attempts failed. They were left with little more than hope that they could catch the sniper before he claimed another victim. The police began listening to testimonies from neighbors, who provided conflicting descriptions of the suspected individual. Some described a tall man, while others mentioned that he wore inappropriate clothing. Through these accounts, investigators managed to pinpoint some areas the sniper might have frequented. But with each new development, the doubts increased. Was it just one person, or was there a larger group behind the attacks? The police were racing against time. With every attack, the city sank deeper into fear and anxiety. The sniper was selecting his victims with precision, executing the attack, and then disappearing quickly. The police were powerless to catch him, and as the attacks continued, the pressure on the investigators mounted. They knew that if they didn't apprehend him soon, more lives would be in jeopardy. Finally, after months of relentless investigations, John Oskarsson was captured in 1992. The man who had committed these brutal crimes seemed like an ordinary person to some, but he harbored deep hatred toward migrants. During the investigation, he admitted to using a laser light to target his victims in an attempt to spread fear and chaos. In a gripping trial, strong evidence was presented against Oskarsson, and he was charged with murder and attempted murder. The trial was open and widely followed by the Swedish media. The testimonies from victims and their families highlighted the impact of these crimes on the lives of migrants in Stockholm. In the end, Oskarsson was convicted and sentenced to a long prison term. John Oskarsson was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and attempted murder. When asked about his motives, he claimed he had been trying to create chaos in Swedish society. However, the court ruled that his actions were driven by hatred and racism, and he was convicted of committing horrific crimes against innocent people. In the end, the case was closed, but the memory of the attacks lingered in the city's collective consciousness. Source of the true story. This true story took place in Stockholm, Sweden in 1991 and was officially closed with a final verdict in 1992.